Let us see first of all, like introduction to the systematic review. So, from where the systematic review comes and why it is important. So, let us try to jump into this discussion. So, look, if you see here is this is a pyramid, and those of you who are in medical school right now and who haven't taken the research biostatistics course, so you will see this figure once you will just study the biostatistics for USMLE, or you will just have you will get involved into your own medical school exams. So this is the hierarchy of the scientific evidence, where from the bottom of this pyramid is the weakest link and weakest association, and when you will move towards the top, so the evidence is the strongest. So look, by evidence what I mean that the strength of evidence can be weaker and can be stronger. So just like a physician, just like a lawyer, a physician is also accountable for generating an evidence and following an evidence. So the evidence of one thing can be weaker, and every evidence of one thing can be strong. So a physician, when for example is seeing a disease in a patient, so they will have an option of the treatment, one of the treatment which is having highest strength of evidence, that the evidence says that that treatment is beneficial for the patient, but the evidence of that treatment is high towards the beneficial role of the patient, and one will be the weakest um, um, evidence that yes it benefits but the evidence is weak. So by weaker evidence, what I mean is that the results are not sound, the results are full of biases, the results are full of chance, and the strongest evidence always have a complete statistical analysis. It is having a higher sample size. It's get collected in much more controlled fashion, and when experts are involved, so in that way, the evidence generated is at the top of the pyramid. So look, at the bottom of the pyramid, there is a case report, opinions, papers, or letters to editor. So look, why they are at the bottom. First of all, you have to understand this, that what's the role of the case report in a clinical research. So what is case report? Case report is any sort of rare occurrence in the scientific community, and which a physician or a surgeon or a psychiatrist or a pathologist wants to show to the world that yes, what sort of evidence they have found. But that will be only a single person, maybe a double, maybe three-person, maybe four. But the the question to ask is that, for example, if a drug, for example, drug X has a side effect of maybe like when you have given to a patient and patient experienced neutropenia, for example. Neutropenia means that neutrophil count drop. So that's only a single evidence with that drug. We haven't conducted controlled studies, we haven't conducted large scale studies, we don't know the demographical variation of the studies. So that's why that result can only be by a chance. So that chance can be maybe we are the physician is thinking that yes, a drug X has called has given a side effect of neutropenia, but maybe that's the only thinking of the physician. Maybe there might be some other concurrent process which is going inside the body of the patient, which might be developing neutropenia. So that's why a case report, opinion papers, or letter to editors with a very small sample size is always having some sort of bias. It's always having some sort of problem with the validity. So that's why the strength of evidence, when it is producing, so that will be weaker. So for example, drug X caused neutropenia, a physician is thinking that it's having it is because of this drug it is causing neutropenia. So when any other physician from the other part of the world is reading that case report, so he will have this thing in his mind that it's only a single case report or two, three, four case reports regarding this side effect. So it might be just by a chance. So the evidence will be very weaker, and if you are following that evidence, so you have to be cautious before following the advice of a single case report. But when you move towards top of the pyramid, So when you just conduct the animal trials or in vitro studies, so the strength of association becomes higher. So why animal trials is at the second high pattern, second hierarchical pattern, for the reason that the question is that are animal studies can be extrapolated to human beings or not? So that's the question. So yes, in animals they're conducting big trials, but can those results will be followed in the human beings? Absolutely no. Why? Because human beings have to be like to validate the authenticity of those clinical trials in animals. Those trials first of all have to happen in the human beings as well. So when human beings will show the similar results, so then we will validate those trials. But for extrapolating the results of animal trials, it can be scary at multiple times. So you have to think about this thing that first of all it's the case report, then there are animal trials, and then there are the cross sectional studies which come at the third um, uh, point of the pyramid. So why the cross-section studies are at the third, and why the case control and cohort studies are at the top of the ladder? Because cross-section studies are just at a single point of the time. They are taking a snapshot of the picture, but there is no control group. But then when you add a control group as well, by control group, what I mean that those people who are completely normal, and you are taking comparing disease versus no disease person. So when you are doing that and you are choosing control and you are just treating those patients who are having a disease, and you are comparing the results of both of them, so you add validity in your results, and your results are much more uh, like those results can be much more acceptable in the scientific community. Then the highest level of the evidence is the randomized control trials. So randomized control trials are trials which are randomized. By randomized, what I mean that you have to add placebo as well, you have to choose the drug as well, and you have to run the trial accordingly. In the like, it will be a trial which can run for multiple years, and the sample size will also be higher. And in that way, in a controlled setting, you see all the results and everything, so the strength of evidence it generates will be higher as compared to a single case report, for example. So, but the real goal of our discussion in this pyramid is the meta-analysis and the systematic review. So if you see that these are at the top of the pyramid, so it means that the meta-analysis and systematic reviews, when you are combining the results of all the studies and you are pooling the results of all the studies, so the evidence, if you apply the statistics on those studies, so what is happening that the results you are getting will be having strength of association really high. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that once you will have higher strength of evidence, so those results will be much more reliable than the randomized control trials or a single cohort studies or a single case control study. So what is happening in the systematic review? So in the systematic review, you are pooling the results of all the studies. For example, you are pooling the results of all the randomized control trials. So when you are generating or pooling the results, so what is happening? That you are creating a strength of evidence that is really strong. So ideally, when you will conduct the systematic reviews in the medicine or surgery, so you will, for creating a higher strength of evidence, you have to use only the results of the randomized control trials. So when you are pulling the results of all the randomized control trials, so what is happening? The strength of evidence generated will be higher. And then if you are meta-analyzing those results as well, meaning that you are adding statistical analysis and you are just generating those forest plots, so those will have higher evidence. So now what about the stuff which we are doing right now is the systematic reviews of rare cases. So the goal of this systematic review is to look at the rare cases. So for rare cases are those cases which are found very rarely in the scientific community. So when you will find them very rare, so can you conduct a clinical trial? Absolutely not. You can't conduct a clinical trial of a rare disease, because from where you will bring a patient and from where you will generate the sample size. So first of all, when you are conducting a systematic review, first of all, look at the randomized control trials. You will learn the search strategy, you will search the literature, you will search the databases, and you will first of all have to search that is there any randomized control trial about this disease or not. Okay, so if you just search the literature and you have found that there are no randomized control trials, we will say, okay, no. Then the second step is try to search for any cohort study, any sort of cohort study. Is it present in the literature? When you will do the sound literature search, which I will teach you shortly in another video, that how to do the search on the databases. So you will search extensively. You will see, you will have different, you will you will try to look into the literature that whether any sort of cohort study is available. Okay, there is no cohort study. Cross. Is there any case control study? Again, it's a very rare disease from where you will bring a cases and from where you bring controls, and for how long you will have to follow, because the follow-ups of those diseases or those tumors are really, really grave. So when the results are so grave, so how come you can conduct a randomized control trial or case control study? Because ultimately you will include those patients in your studies. So what will happen? They will eventually die within few months or within few years. So you that's not feasible. Again, you will cross it, because we are searching the literature and you are not finding anything. So when you are not finding anything, you will cross that. Search the cross-section studies. If there are any cross-section studies, you have to include the studies. But for rare diseases, cross-section studies are not there. Animal trials or in vitro studies, they don't have any sort of like, you might not find animal studies of that rare tumor. But ultimately, the thing which we are doing is that rare diseases do have case reports. So when the rare diseases have case reports, so only in those rare tumors or in rare cases, we can conduct the systematic reviews of the case reports. Otherwise, if you are conducting a systematic reviews of those diseases in which observational studies are there, and you are just neglecting the randomized controlled trials, cohort studies, case control cross-section studies, animal trials, what will happen that your methodology will be flawed. So first of all, when you will learn the search strategy, first of all, look for the bigger, larger studies. Look for the randomized control trials. Look for the cohort, case control, cross-section studies. So first of all, you have to include them in your systematic review. But if you can't add them because there is no availability, or if the sample size is very less, then the only option is with you to have to include is the case reports, and you will document in your methodology properly that we initially search broadly to look for the largest studies, but as the disease is very rare and in the literature you can only find the case reports, that's why ultimately we have only included the case reports. So hence you are justifying the addition of the case reports. Otherwise the case reports have got no place in the scientific evidence, because if the disease have randomized controlled trial observational studies, you have to exclude the case reports, because the evidence generated from the case report is at the bottom of the pyramid. But it becomes exceptional in only rare tumors or in the rare cases for which only you will find the case reports. Then you can add in your systematic review those case reports. But for that purpose, you have to have a sound search strategy. You have to look extensively into the databases, and once you will find that, yes, with confidence, you will say that I've searched the literature and I couldn't find anything larger, I couldn't find anything observational, I couldn't find any randomized control trial, and that makes sense as well, because the disease is very rare, the incidence is very, very less, that even it is can't be calculated. So then you get a chance to include the systematic review of the case reports, and this what we are doing in our spring systematic review. Now we will clear this all, and let's jump into the next slide. So I'm hopeful that you will be clear about this concept, that why we are choosing only the case reports, because we have searched the literature, we have searched all the databases, and we can say with full confidence that yes, there are no observation studies, and we have ultimately got only the chance to observe this rare cases, and hence we are justified. So in the methodology section, you have to be really clear that what you have to write, because if your search strategy is wrong and you have missed an observation study, you have missed a randomized control trial, suddenly your whole hard work of the 6 months will be like the reviewers or the editors will say that yes, you haven't included the observational studies where they are. So that's why you have to look into those things as well. So the other question is, why systematic reviews? Why not literature reviews? Why not like why review article? What's the benefit of the review article for the medical student or for medical graduates? So look, first of all, it's ideal for the medical students and graduate, as no IRB approval is needed. So you don't have to go and you don't have to submit the documents to the IRB approval. And for that, you have to wait for the next 6 months. And once it is accepted from the IRB, so then you can start working on it. No, you don't need it. You can sit in your room at the comfort of your room. You choose a topic, you make a group of 7 to 10 people and just start working on that. And there are no restrictions for conducting systematic review and meta-analysis. So that's why all the members, all the students, all the scientific community can conduct anywhere at any time. And again, you can conduct with the different institutes just like we are doing right now. You can conduct the systematic review within your own class fellows. You can conduct systematic review among members of your schools, among the whole world. Like we are having a diversity, we are from US, from Mexico, from Pakistan, from India, we are from everywhere, but we are sharing a common goal of conducting a systematic review. So now we can sit together without any sort of fear for the IRB approval, and we are justifying ourselves, we are making a methodology, we are making a search strategy, and then we can do at the comfort of our home on Zoom sessions, at the WhatsApp we can just discuss with each other. So that's why systematic review is a feasible projects for medical students, medical graduates, even for physicians. But physicians are usually very busy, so for them conducting systematic review is a bit difficult. But for medical students and graduates, or for aspirants of the USMLE, PLAB, etc., they can sit, and as they are sitting in their homes for studying, so in that way they can conduct this systematic review. And this will be one additional skill which you will learn, and when you will just add into your CV, it will never hurts, and trust me, it will look very good on your CV. Okay, so now just briefly the steps which are followed in the systematic review, and we will discuss each step in detail. But first of all, a bird eye view about the systematic review, that what are the steps in conducting the systematic review. So first of all, there is the topic selection. How we will select topic, the I will teach in a separate video, but that will be at the end. Once you will learn the search strategy in the databases, you will learn how to make a search string, and you will learn how to search the databases. So that, and at the very end, I will teach you how to select a topic, how to find a research gap, so that at the end of this 6 months, you can start your own independent projects and you don't need any sort of assistance from anyone. Conceptualize and create the protocol. It means that once you select a topic, then you all will sit together and you will conceptualize and create a protocol. So by protocol, what I mean is that you have to build a search strategy based on your title. You will do quick searches on the databases. By quick searches, I mean that you will just look superficially into the data, and then what will happen that you will have to register this protocol into um, some registry. And one of the registry which is most famous is known as Prospero. So we will have a video about the Prospero in which I will teach you that what Prospero is all about. So that name is Prospero. So you will register your systematic review in Prospero, and many of the journals want the Prospero ID as well. So if you are registering it, so that you are following a well-oriented steps in the systematic review, then what will you will do once you will conceptualize, you will build a search strategy, you will sit together and you will say that what sort of systematic review you are conducting, what's your inclusion and exclusion criteria. And once that protocol is registered into the registry, for example, Prospero, you will go for the deep searches of your studies. You will search the databases extensively, and then you will start screening for the studies. So you will select the studies based on your title and abstract, which you are choosing it, and you are just pooling all those studies which are comparable, which can be pooled together. And after selecting all those studies, you will do the critical analysis of those studies, which is also known as appraisal of the studies. And for our systematic review of the rare cases, we will um, do it via a JBI analysis, and this I will show you in detail once we will start the quality assessment of the case reports. And so there will be a separate video for that how to do appraisal of the studies. And then you will pool the data of all those studies, and then you will do the statistical analysis. And yeah, then after conducting the statistical analysis, finally you will write a manuscript and you will submit to a journal. So these are some of the essential steps which are necessary for you to learn in the systematic review, and we will discuss each step in detail in coming videos. So now the next step is to let us see the differences between various review articles. That what's the literature review like, what is systematic review, what is literature review, and what is meta-analysis. So look, what is literature review? Always whenever anyone asks you, or like you always want to like in like everyone wants to justify themselves that what is what. So you will encounter in your clinical studies literature review as well as systematic review. So look, a knowledge is a C. Just consider this, that knowledge is a big C. So that big C is a literature review. Like the literature is present everywhere, it's a C. But the systematic review is you are taking a portion of that C and you want to analyze that what's happening at this part of the C. So that will be the systematic review. And once you pool the results and you become more specific, so that is the meta-analysis. So literature review is a big C of the knowledge. That's like it's a big C, but you when you concentrate on that big C at a portion of that C, that's a systematic review. And when you start pooling of all the results and do the statistical analysis, that is much more focused, because not all the results of systematic review can be statistically analyzed, because some of the results are incomplete as well. So when you are just focusing on these subset of the results, so that is the meta-analysis. So in that way, you will know the differences between the literature review, systematic review, and meta-analysis. So let me show you one more slide so that you see here. So look, it's a big C. It's a literature review. And then when you become specific, for example, a knowledge is a big one. For example, diabetes mellitus, it's a huge C. Diabetes mellitus can be treated by insulin, can be managed by medication, can be managed by exercise, can be managed by low carb diets. So look, it's a huge C. But now you are focusing on only one aspect of the diabetes mellitus. Maybe you are interested in the efficacy of insulin in diabetics. So that will be a focused question which you are asking, and that focused question about that sea of the knowledge of the diabetes mellitus is a systematic review. But now, when you start pooling the results, you will find that not all results can be pooled together, because some of the results of the systematic review can't be statistically analyzed because they are incomplete. But those results which are comparable and get statistically analyzed, that will be much more focused. So those results will be much more focused. So that will be meta-analysis. So diabetes mellitus is a huge C. That's a literature review. If you are just studying about the diabetes mellitus, so you have to search about the you will search about the surgery, you will search about a medical treatment, you will search about exercise and role of exercise and diet in the diabetes. So look, there are so many aspects of one disease that you can study about the incidence and prevalence, you can study about follow-ups of the patient, you can study about the psychological aspects of the diabetes. So look, it's a huge C. So that's a literature review, because when you are just giving the information about everything about one disease, that's literature review. But when you become too much focused on a narrow question, maybe you want to assess the efficacy of the insulin on diabetes, or maybe you want to see the psychological aspects of the diabetes, or you are just stratifying the diabetes results according to different demographics. So what you are doing, that you are just choosing one portion of that C, and you want to analyze those results. And when you just collect all the data and you start pulling off the results, so look, only some of the results can be statistically analyzed, and that will be the meta-analysis, much more focused, much more accurate, and much more believable than a broad literature review, broad systematic review. But meta-analysis is at the top of the pyramid, so the evidence it will generate will be higher, but much more focused than your literature review or systematic review. So look, what does the literature review do? Summarizes a topic that is broad in scope, for example, cancer treatment or maybe a cancer, but that is very broad. Cancer can be treated through radiotherapy, chemotherapy, through surgery, through for example, through various diets, through different sort of procedures. So look, it can be treated through multiple ways, but when you are focusing on the chemotherapy aspect of the cancer, that will be your systematic review. Literature reviews are usually qualitative, but it can be quantitative as well. So by qualitative, I mean that you are not pulling the results and you are just trying to superficially touch on every aspect of the topic. So that will be the qualitative studies. And it may use sources that are biased because you don't have a proper search strategy, you don't have proper risk assessment, you don't have proper quality assessment of the studies, and you most of the time you don't have comparable studies, and you are just adding those studies by different various searches, and you are just saying that this I am finding, but you are missing some of the important studies to narrate. So that's why it will be broad, it will be a little bit haphazard as compared to the systematic review, and it does not define what type of studies will be included. It looks at everything. Okay. And systematic review, first of all, you build a proper research question, much more focused research question. You ask a specific clinical question according to the PICO model, which we will discuss in the next video. So it's saying that, is vitamin C or chemotherapy a better cancer treatment in patients over the age of 40? So look, you have become much more specific regarding the treatment. You are not broad, you are narrowed, you are focused, and you have made a question according to a protocol which is known as PICO model, which we will discuss in the next video, that how to build a research question ideally. It defines a specific search strategy, which we will discuss in detail, that how to search, then lists what will be included and excluded. So you will have a proper inclusion and exclusion criteria, proper methodology, proper quality appraisal of the studies, and proper Prisma flow diagram, and you will let the community decide that you have done everything step by step in ethical manner, in proper sound direction. You have led towards your results and your discussion and your conclusion. So that will be the systematic review. And systematic review will be, so what is meta-analysis? So for meta-analysis, first of all, you have to perform the systematic review. So for example, when I'm conducting a systematic review, so at that time, I don't know that whether we will meta-analyze the results or not, because we don't know that whether the results of various studies are comparable or not. So once we will just compare all the results and we can say that yes, we can meta-analyze the data. So then when we will add the statistics to the comparable results, so we will say that it's a meta-analysis. So for conducting a system meta-analysis, you first of all have to conduct a systematic review. Then you will see the comparable results, and when you will pool those comparable results and you will combine this, you will do the statistical analysis. So what you are doing is that you are doing a meta-analysis with systematic review. Isolated meta-analysis is never found, because first of all you have to conduct a systematic review. So after that you just pool the results, you will apply the frequency, when you will know the percentages, and then you will sit with the with each other and you will say that yes, the next step is to meta-analyze, to make a forest plot, maybe to try to include confidence intervals, p-values, etc. So what we are doing in our this publication, we are doing the systematic review of a rare case. So look, what is exceptional for us, that we are including the case reports, because we don't have observational studies. So when we will do meta-analysis of this systematic review which we are doing, once we will search all the results, we are crystal clear that we have got 50 to 60 cases. Then we will first of all distribute the cases among each other, and we will collect the raw data. And then from raw data, what I will do is to make variables, and those variables will be inserted into the SPSS software. And then once we will do the descriptive analysis, at that time we will come to know that whether we can meta-analyze those results or not. Because, for example, if we collected 10 case reports and we are interested in follow-up or overall survival, and we want to make the Kaplan-Meier curve, but to our surprise, only one of the case has given follow-ups. So if one of the case has given follow-up, so one only one result can't make a Kaplan-Meier curve. You have to have a multiple studies for uh, first of all calculating the overall survival in months. That should be your average, and from that average you will calculate the Kaplan, you will make a Kaplan-Meier curve. So that's why we will look into the data, that how many results we have found which are comparable. And finally, when they will be comparable, we will just introduce the confidence interval and p-values, and we can make the graphs if we have sufficient data for analyzing or meta-analyzing. So I'm hopeful that you will be clear up till this point. So from the next video, what I will do is to we will study what is the PICO model of the research question, and how to make a research question according to the standards of the systematic review.